Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news as we discuss the loan options that Erik ten Hag could look at in the January transfer window. We hear about the right players, we hear about we'll move if the right players come along. Is that a bit of a myth? There's plenty of players out there. It's not like Wout Weghorst was the right player. He was the player we needed with the budget we've got. And I think there's plenty of players like that we can look at. We'll go through the list of that. We'll also be talking about Alanga's loan deal. Looks like that's not going to be to the Premier League. So hopefully Dortmund, we'll see about that. Also injury latists on Delot and Martial ahead of the massive game against Arsenal at the weekend. A bit of a transfer blow around Moukoko, which I'll speak to you about in a moment as well, because that's to do with Dortmund. And a lot of other things to get into as well. Morning Dan, whoever Dan is. Hello Dan. Chipping Norton, Dan Clark, there you go. Hope you're doing well. Big day ahead, big weekend ahead. Obviously, we'll be live at about 1:45 this afternoon with Erik ten Hag's press conference ahead of the Arsenal game. There's a rumour that that's not a proper press conference, by the way. I think United are missing... I mean, look, ten Hag does what he wants. He does what he wants. But we didn't get a proper press conference for the Palace game. That's a Premier League game. That's a Premier League game. And we're getting embargoed interview with ten Hag for the Crystal Palace game, which he did on Saturday lunchtime after the Man City game. There's a rumour he's not doing a press conference for the Arsenal game, and it's actually an embargoed interview he did after the Palace game on Wednesday night. I think United are missing a trick here. It's Man United against Arsenal. We want a live press conference with Erik ten Hag. Look, I think ten Hag's fantastic and he is the boss and he does what he wants, but we want a live press conference for an Arsenal game. You can't have a 5-minute interview after a Crystal Palace draw. It's Arsenal against Man United. We want a proper press conference. So we'll see what happens with that. It's only a rumour at the moment, but yeah, I'm not furious about it, but come on, we want a proper press conference. Come on. Yeah, lots to get into. Right. First thing I'm going to do on this show this morning is get into what I want to talk about, the loan deals. I want to talk about what's available because ten Hag said it a couple of times. You lot have said it a lot. We're seeing Chelsea buy another player. Arsenal bring a player in. Apparently they're looking for a midfielder as well. Don't think for 1 minute that Arsenal has got hold of Trossard and that's their business done. They want a midfielder as well. So it's not only people around us strengthening their squads. It's strengthening them with good players as well. So what can Man United do in the loan market in the last couple of weeks? And it will have to be the loan market. We've heard Erik ten Hag say that he wants to bring players in he wants to bring players in, but they've got to be the right player. And as I said a minute or two ago, I don't feel that there is. I just don't feel it's actually true. I think when you hear a manager say, yeah, we're in the market, we're looking for players, but they've got to be the right player, that's absolutely fine. But I think it's a bit of a cliche because, as I say, ten Hag wanted Felix and Gakpo. They were the right player, the right level of player, the right quality player. He's ended up with Weghorst, who isn't the right player, but it's the right player at the right price. I guarantee, and what I'm trying to say here is that if ten Hag sits there tonight in a restaurant in Manchester and looks at the menu, he's basically getting sixth choice. Can I have the steak? No, we ran out. Can I have the chicken pie? No, we've run out. Can I have this? No, we've run out. Okay, I'll have the soup. And that's what's happening. And so we can't just be very careful that you don't get drawn into the myth of, wow, I'd rather get no player than. I'd rather get no player if we're not going to get the right player. Let's not pretend Weghorst is the right player. He's a necessity. I hope he does really well. I think we all do. But he's a necessity. And therefore, when we're talking about a midfielder, we are talking about a necessity as well. Is ten Hag just waiting for next season and new owners, or is he trying to win now? He's trying to win now, British Texas Ranger. I like your name. Good morning, Mark and Manchester United fans. Yep, we definitely need new signings. Will we? Highly doubt it. Well, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you something. This is something I've mentioned to you before. This is on transfer market. This is players who are out of contract in the summer. Midfielders who are out of contract in the summer. So look, I'm not the scout for Manchester United, but you can find this information very, very quickly. Now, you tell me that I can't get one of these midfielders now on loan. Now, Yuri Tillemans, look, Leicester probably on loan or very cheap, I should say. But some of these players, I think you can get them on loan to buy in the summer. I think you can. Now, Tillemans, no. Jorginho, no. Thomas Lemar at Atletico Madrid's an attacking midfielder, so I don't know whether you'd want that. Kante's obviously injured. Kamada at Frankfurt, attacking midfield. I don't really know much about him. Konrad Laimer, well, he is obviously going to go to Bayern Munich. So let's move down the list. Ilkay Gundogan, we're not going to get him. Rabiot, we've already heard from Fabrizio that he's not going to go. Toni Kroos is at Madrid, probably not going to happen. Naby, don't worry, I'm making a point here. Naby Keita's at Liverpool, that's not going to happen. Aouar is injured. And then you come to Dawood. Now, Dawood at Dortmund has hardly played for Dortmund this season. He's out of contract in the summer. Now, people will automatically come out with, well, we'll come back to that list in a minute. People will automatically come out with, well, Dawood's not going to leave Dortmund, Mark. Not a chance. Not a chance is that going to happen. Alex is loving it. Lovely stuff. Smash a like on the video. No way is Dawood going to... We'll go back to the list in a minute, Alex. Don't worry. Get excited. No way is Dawood going to come to Manchester United. No way is he going to leave Dortmund. He's out of contract in the summer. He's hardly played. They want Elanga. Hello. You know, it could happen. Now, with Dawood, I'm not saying he's the answer. I can see people saying, oh, he's not that good. But Oleg said he wasn't that bad once. What are we looking at? Why did I talk about Weghorst? We're not getting João Felix, Gakpo midfielders. We're getting Weghorst midfielders. And that's the mindset to have. Don't fall into the trap. Don't fall into the trap of, well, I'd rather get nobody than somebody, because we need somebody. And Weghorst is somebody up front, so why can't we do that in midfield? So, again, I would say that someone like, you know, this is what United should be doing. I shouldn't have to do the job for them. They should be doing this. They should be going through lists like that and going, this is a list of players. And look, you could do it with 2024 as well, 18 months on the contract. But certainly, going through the list of players with 6 months on the contract, you'll find somebody at a club where that club will say, look, he's not going to renew with us anyway. We're not really using him much. You're going to take the wages. We're going to save a bit of money. We're not that well off. Because there is this theory at the moment. I saw a journalist from Europe say it the other day. The Premier League is the Super League. They're haters. They were comparing the expenditure of the Premier League in the January transfer window to every other league. And it's pitiful. Like La Liga, the French League, Serie A, their spend in January is pitiful. I think every one of them is below like 20 million. Whereas the Premier League is well over hundreds of millions. So they're calling the Premier League the Super League. We're the money. The money's here. So you're telling me that Man United can't go down that list and ring them all up and go, he's only got 6 months left on his contract. You fancy a loan to buy deal? We'll take the wages off you. You know, you get 4 or 5 million as well. The press conference is definitely embargoed. Mentioned after the Palace game, says Neil. That's a joke. I'm sorry, that's a joke. I love the club. I love Ten Hag. I think they're doing a fantastic job. But come on, it's Arsenal. We're playing Arsenal on Sunday. We're not doing a press conference for it. That's poor. It's the biggest game of the season. And I mean, it's not like I'm going to be there or Adam's going to be there. You know, let Luckhurst and everyone in. It's a joke. Why are you not having a press conference today for 20 minutes with journalists talking about the biggest game of the season? I think that's poor. I'm sorry, I think that is poor. And I don't criticise United for a lot, but I think that's really poor. What update are we going to get from Ten Hag about injuries on Wednesday night? We've got the update. They couldn't play against Palace. It's poor. It's poor. I'm sorry. But anyway, let's go back to what I was talking about. So, more time coaching players. Yes, but come on. I don't mind us not having a press conference for Forest in the Carabao Cup next week. But come on, Arsenal, you know, it's all part of it. It's Super Sunday. Super Sunday. Anyway, look, let's move on. I don't criticise Ten Hag much, actually, mate, so you can jog on. I don't criticise Ten Hag hardly at all. I'm a very big fan. So I think Dawood is an interesting one. I'm not going to deny about that. I think he is interesting. Let me get it back up on screen for you. So these are players with 6 months left on their contract. They're out of contract in the summer. This is from transfermarket.com. And effectively, these are players who are out of contract in the summer. So I like the look of Dawood. I do like the look of Dawood. He can play CDM. He's more box to box. He's had real issues with his shoulder. 27 years of age. I think that sort of look. We're not keeping these players as well. This is really important as well. Let me just come back on screen. Really important to say, we're not looking to keep these players. We're looking to get them in now to do a job for us. If they do really well, maybe you get a contract, but ultimately, maybe you don't. It's exactly what's happening with Weghorst. I just think people are lazy. They go, oh, I can't be bothered with that. oh, I can't be bothered getting a player in on loan until the summer, and then, you can be bothered with that. Get on the bloody phone call. Get on your phone and start working, because it could be the difference between 4th place, 5th place, 2nd place, 3rd place. You don't know. Ignore Lingard. We're not looking at him. Jefferson Lamar at Bournemouth, they're not going to let him go. I don't really know much about Aaron Barry, and he's injured. Lingard's injured. We don't want him. Interesting defensive midfielder at Cologne, Skiri. Don't know much about him. There is one I'm quite interested in. I just don't know what he's injured. I mean, Decore at Everton, not going to happen. Not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Aribe at Porto, don't know enough about him. Tom Davies, Luka Modric isn't going to come now. Ross Barkley's at Nice. I mean, I don't think Ross Barkley's good enough, really, do you? But there is one player I wanted to mention here. Dawood jumps out at me, and Grealish jumps out at me. Now, I don't know what the injury is with Grealish. I like him. I don't know. If someone knows what the injury is, I don't know. Right? He's basically, I think he was at, correct me if I'm wrong here. I think Grealish is a CDM, definitely a CDM. He was at Hoffenheim. And he's a CDM. He signed for Ajax in, we'll have a look at attacking midfielders in a minute. He signed for Ajax on a free in September. He's out of contract in the summer. He's not played that much. I don't know what his injury is. But again, it's like people are obsessed with the right player. Weghorst isn't the right player up front either. There are options out there. We're not going to get Modric in January, mate. You've got to look at January now. We're looking at players like January right now. And there are options out there. Now, Ramsey Bolton's just said, what about Paredes? What about Paredes? Paredes. Come on. Let's have a look. I don't know what his transfer situation is really. I like him. And he's a good player. 28. Contract up in 2024. And he's not played that many games. He's on loan already. He's not at PSG, is he? He's at Juventus, isn't he? Yeah, that's not gonna. They've got an option to buy. Wow, you never know. You never know with the situation there. You never know. We need to go for Sangari. He's available, says Ivan. Not in January. I'm talking about January. Don't you just love how people just don't get the grasp of the show? The whole point of that list I was showing you there is because we're talking about players that are available in the summer with 6 months left on their contract. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at players who are available in the summer with 6 months left on their contract. That you can go to that club now and say, look, we quite like the idea of signing you now. What are your thoughts? I think it's interesting. We'll have a look at the attacking midfielder situation in a minute. But I just wanted to sort of wanted to show you that because it's really important. Some people would say, oh, that's a bit statistical, that's not going to happen. But it's really important to show you that on the 20th of January, with 11 days left in the transfer window, you can go out there and get a Weghorst in midfield and attacking midfield. You can do that. And I'm not going to get convinced or sidetracked by, this talk of it's got to be the right player. Because Weghorst isn't the right player. That's not the player we wanted. That's the player that we can get for the money we've got. And we can do that in midfield. And I'll guarantee you now, if you rung Ajax up about Grealish and said, are you going to keep him in the summer? They're probably not going to keep him. So why would we not just go, well, we'll take the wages off you and we'll take him for 6 months? You could try it with Dawood at Dortmund. Do you want Alanga and we'll take Dawood? You could try it. Now, I'm not saying that Grealish and Dawood would do amazing at Manchester United, but they would give us another option with a bit of rotation. And that's just an example of players with 6 months left on their contract. That's how you work as a director of football. That's what your job is there to do. You can't just wait. I get the impression that Man United don't really do any of that. I get the impression that Man United wait for agents to ring them up and then look at it. Reactive instead of proactive. We need a midfielder. We arguably need a number 10. On loan till the summer. We don't have to buy them in the summer. You dangle that carrot and say, look, come to Manchester United. If you do really well, like Weghorst, there may be a contract at the end of the rainbow. If you don't, back you go from wherever you came. So that's what you need to do. And I guarantee you, it's a very important point. AMC, welcome to the Members Club. It's a very, very important point. People get a downer and go, oh, Dortmund won't loan us Dawood. Ajax won't loan us this. They bloody will. If the player isn't playing much and they're out of contract in the summer, they bloody will do it because it's money. As I said, we're sitting in a position of privilege where we think every other league's like ours. Look at the spend in January of every other league apart from the Premier League. It's pitiful. Look at the Premier League spend. It's huge. The money is here. Aston Villa can go and buy a player from Valencia, piece of piss. They'll probably be buying players from PSG soon. The money that Premier League clubs have is massive, and that is an incentive to any club in Europe to offload a player that's coming towards the end of their contract, or they need to make a bit of money. Jamie says, Arsenal getting Trossard while we're sitting there on our arse twiddling our thumbs. Chelsea are in 10th and spending like mad. It's embarrassing, says Jamie. Yeah, it isn't. Well, you know what? We should be, bare minimum, we should be doing what I've just spoken about there. Bare minimum, we should be going out and, gambling on a couple of loans. But you're right. The fact that they won't even do that is disgusting when you've got rivals who are spending decent money on decent players. We're arguing in the gutter. Other clubs are actually spending money. It is a joke. And the sooner the bloody Glazers piss off and take the director of football and CEO with them, the better, in my opinion. They're inaccessible. I was speaking to somebody this week, actually, who is... It's difficult to say what their role is because they're basically a journalist. And they were talking about the stories that are going around about who's going to take over the club. And one of the big things that certain people are talking about in relation to buying Manchester United is that they really, really do want to be more front-facing if they get hold of the club in the ways that Bayern Munich are and in the way that Dortmund are. The word on the street is that there is absolutely no reason why Manchester United cannot be like Bayern Munich or Borussia Dortmund and have a CEO and a sporting director who actually talk quite regularly to the press and alleviate the pressure from Ten Hag. And Ten Hag would actually like that. So, I mean, look, a lot of that will be rumour mill, but imagine what it would be like if we brought owners in who brought a CEO and a director of football and a sporting director in who actually spoke to the fans through the media on a regular basis, like Dortmund do, like Bayern Munich do. United's a closed shop. We've got a director of football who only ever talks about what he spent in the summer. We know. Or a CEO who only ever talks when he's being recorded in his local pub. It's the only people they're interested in talking to is shareholders. What makes it so concerning is that it appears we are not even trying. I'd respect the club more if they made some offers and got told to sling their hook. Absolutely no noises coming out of United, says Charlie. I'm telling you now. I know a few agents. You get used to having conversations like this in the industry. I'm telling you now. You can ring up clubs in Europe and you can get a midfielder into Old Trafford on loan till the end of the season, and you can get a good quality one. You're not going to get Kimmich, but there are some good players there that will help this team. And United will, and you can do it on the cheap. And United will either do that or they won't do that. But if they don't do that, they're not doing it for the money. Simple as that. Just a bit of transfer news. I was going to mention it first. Bit of a blow, potentially. Remember Fabrizio was on about Moukoko at Dortmund a couple of weeks ago on the channel. Said, watch this space with that. He's out of contract in the summer. He's not signed the new contract with Dortmund, which means he can talk to United, Chelsea, any other club outside of the Bundesliga legally, because it's January, you can do that. It broke last night. I don't know whether it's officially been confirmed yet, but apparently Moukoko will sign a new contract with Dortmund, which is interesting, isn't it? Because he could have signed that contract in December. He's had 20 days where he's effectively probably been able to speak to other clubs, and now decides to stay at Dortmund. I always thought he would stay at Dortmund. I just didn't think it had come to January where he could speak to other clubs. But yeah, I mean, it would have been nice if United could have done something about that, but ultimately it looks like that won't happen. And even if he was leaving Dortmund, would it have been for Man United anyway? I mean, we've probably not had a conversation with him or his agent anyway. Let's be honest, we probably haven't even bothered. So there you go. Chelsea are going for Casido, says MLS. Wow. Chelsea are either going to be a fantastically exciting project over the next 12 months, or they're going to be an absolute example of how not to spend money. Caicedo is a player I would buy. João Felix is a player I would have brought in. Mudryk, probably not for us, but he's an exciting player. Maduiki's a bit weird. I like Maduiki, but he's very, very injury prone. Badashil's a player I like as well. So, I mean, in general, the transfer business that Chelsea have done, I wouldn't say no to... I know they've not got Caicedo yet, but they want him. I don't have a problem with that. Badashil I've always quite liked. João Felix I really like. Mudryk I don't think we need. Maduiki I don't think we need. So, I mean, I don't think they're... I don't think they're buying... I don't think they're that bothered. Justin agrees with Erik ten Hag not doing a press conference. He says he's got his hands full preparing for the game and a press conference is wasting time. Justin, you know what that is? It's an opinion. Can we all have a clap for Justin? Justin doesn't think we should have a press conference for the Arsenal game. I'm old school. I love the press conferences before a big game. I remember Sir Alex, you know, we've always done it. I mean, Ten Hag is not really pro press conferences. It's well known. You know, journalists, well, we did. United Stand went out there, didn't we? On tour in the summer. You know, there was loads of complaints from journalists about, you know, not really getting enough access to the team. Ten Hag does want to be on the training ground. That's what he wants to do. He's not really into, you know, press conferences. Absolutely fine. I haven't got a problem with the motivation behind not wanting to do it. But when you're playing Arsenal in the Premier League, I think there should be a Friday afternoon press conference. I really do. I think there should. You know, at the end of the day, we want to be successful on the pitch, but come on, it's Manchester United. The fans want to hear from the manager talking about Arsenal on Friday, not 5 minutes after the Crystal Palace game on Wednesday. And the trouble is, United have fallen into this trap of doing this quite a lot. There is no value, really, in a press conference for Arsenal on Wednesday night straight after a Palace game, because he's not done a training session afterwards. You know, he's thinking about the Palace game. So I think I like that. But you never know. You know, in the embargoed section, to be honest, he might be asked about signings in January. So you know, there might be something in there. Isn't the right player line the same as being happy with what we've got? It was nonsense then and it's nonsense now, says Martin. Oh, 100%. I absolutely... I don't care whose mouth it's coming from. It can be Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, Ten Hag. If they're sat there in January saying, we'd like to bring some players in, but it's got to be the right player, that's bollocks. It is. It's absolute nonsense when you've just got Weghorst on loan from Burnley, because he's not the right player, and you know he's not the right player. You didn't want Weghorst. You've got Weghorst because the club has said you've got $3 million to spend. So he said, well, Weghorst then. He's not the right player. He's the right player at the right price. So, you know, if we don't get a midfielder in because we want Enzo Fernandez in the summer, well, why did you get Weghorst when you went Osman in the summer? Because you need a player now. There are plenty of options out there to bring in the midfield. Royce to United, says Christian. This is a summer story. Oh, Royce is a summer story. So nothing to add about that. Christian Falk has spoken about Royce to Manchester United in the summer. Look, people are getting excited about that. Can I might be able to show you this on screen, because I have got transfermarket.com up on the screen. Let's do this. I like Marco Reus. I think he's been very, very unlucky in his career. There's no doubt about that. But would I want Marco Reus to sign for Manchester United at 33? I mean, this is like what I'm about to show you on the screen here. This is like, I mean, what is that? Yeah, let's bring Marco Reus to Manchester United. I mean, bloody hell, look at that. If you start at last season, 21-22, he's had knee problem, minor knock, ill, rest, muscle fibre, ruptured ankle. I mean, God, no. Absolutely not. We're only in January, and he's had 3 separate ankle injuries this season. No. I'm sorry. I like the player, and I do like the player. But come on. It's another Cavani. It's another Martial, as someone said there. We've got to stop doing this. We've got to stop doing this. Like, I know Ten Hag's new at the club, but just have a look at our history. You can't just buy good players when their injury record is abysmal. It's the Premier League. I don't want Royce to sign for Man United. I like the player. I think he's been really unlucky not going to World Cups and that for Germany. But 3 ankle injuries in 5 months at 33, I'd rather spend the money on painting Old Trafford. I really would. No. Look, some people don't have that mindset. They get lost in the player that they play with on FIFA. Marco Reus is a fantastic player. I've always liked him. But I haven't seen loads of him because he never plays in international tournaments for Germany because he's always bloody injured. I don't want to go anywhere near a player like that at 33. Sorry. And I know some people disagree with that because they get, like I say, they fall in love with the player's name and their ability. But we need players who can play on the play on the pitch. And I wouldn't go for Marco Reus, to be honest with you. He wouldn't be the player that I would be looking to bring in to Manchester United. Just talking about injuries, it doesn't sound like we're going to get much of an update from Ten Hag at 1:45 when we do our show on the press conference, because it's a pre-recorded press conference and it's after the Crystal Palace game. So we don't know what's been said in that yet. But we're not going to get an injury update, so I feel I should talk about that. Royce will give Phil Jones someone to talk to, says Robert. Well, I think what they're probably going to do, Robert, to be fair, you've hit the nail on the head there. So Phil Jones will leave United in the summer because he's out of contract. So what they're probably thinking is, who's going to keep the medical staff company? Because Phil Jones is there every day. So they've thought, I know, when Phil Jones goes, let's get Marco Reus, because he can sit in there with the medical staff every day and be injured. But talking about those injuries, we're not going to get an update today from Ten Hag because he did the interview on Wednesday for the Arsenal game. So the Martial and Dalot situation will be the same as the Crystal Palace game. They weren't fit. Do we think either of those 2 players will be back for Arsenal? Don't think Dalot needs to be back for Arsenal. So I wouldn't be bothered about risking bringing Dalot back, if you know what I mean, because I don't think he needs to be back for the Arsenal game because Wan-Bissaka is playing well. So, maybe we rushed Dalot back a little bit too quick this time because he came back from injury and got injured again very quickly. So maybe with Dalot this time, however long he's out, we just make sure he's fit, So I wouldn't involve Dalot in the Arsenal game regardless because I think we can trust Wan-Bissaka. On Anthony Martial, we need him fit on Sunday. He needs to play. And now, if I was Ten Hag, and it always depends on the player, but if I was Ten Hag, I'd be really clever here. I would say, Tony, how you feeling? Well, I'm not quite right, but I want to play. That'll do. Play him. What if he gets injured? No, I know what I'm doing here. Play him. As long as he wants to play him. But he'll get injured again. I know what I'm doing. Play him. Bloody just do as you're told, Steve. Anyway. The reason I would do that as manager, as long as Martial wants to play, even though he's a little bit off, I'll play him because we're better with him. But if he breaks down and he's out for a month, I go straight to Richard and I say, I ain't got a striker. If you don't play Martial on Sunday because he's not 100% fit, you're not doing yourself any favour as a manager because you're protecting an injured player that's going to get injured again in February and then you didn't get your chance in January. I'd play Martial on Sunday. As long as Martial wants to play and he's close to being ready, I'll play him. Because if he gets injured again, you go, I ain't got a striker. So I definitely think that Martial has to play on Sunday if he's anywhere near capable of playing. And we heard last week against Man City he was desperate to play. He was begging to play. So hopefully that'll be the same. Because we're a completely different team with Martial in the team than we are without. I wish everybody a great weekend like Eric Ten Hag. Keep up the good work, says Clon. Thank you very much. There you go. No, you know what? Sean says it's an intentional accident. I think that you've just got to... Sometimes as a manager, and we all do it in our job, we all do it in our family life, sometimes you do something knowing that it's going to hurt in the short term, but in the long term you're better off for it. Like, if you are in the toilet and the toilet paper is just running out, well, here's a scenario. I'm sure you've all been in it. You walk into the toilet, right? You need to go for number 2, not being crude. You look at the toilet paper situation and you think, that probably will just get me through this visit, but then we're going to need a new one. Before I drop my kegs, do I go downstairs to the cupboard and get some toilet roll? do I think of others? Or do I just crack on with it, use up the toilet roll, and then just sort of carry on with your day and say to the missus or somebody else, if you're going in the toilet, you'll need some toilet roll, and get them to do it. And it's a little bit like that, isn't it? Sometimes you do something to make your life easier. And, you know, it might be get the toilet roll before, it might be leave someone else to do it. But I think in this situation, you could just be precautious and get the toilet roll. Or you could just be a bit selfish and leave it to someone else. And I think in this situation with Martial, it would be precautionary to go, he's not quite right for Arsenal, let's not risk it. I think play him, because he's never going to be quite right. Martial's had 5 injuries this season already. Let's have a look at Anthony Martial, actually. Let's have a look at Anthony Martial's injury record. This will be interesting. But you know what I mean? I think that we need Martial against Arsenal. If he gets injured, we're still in a transfer market. They might do something about it. So I would play him. I wouldn't protect him. I would play him, because we're never going to be able to protect him. It's just not going to work. This is Anthony Martial's injury record. They haven't even got the one at the moment. So this season alone, July, he had a hamstring injury from July until mid-August. Straight after that, he had an Achilles injury for over a month, and then came back for like 2 weeks, and then he got a back injury for a month as well. So he's had this injury he's got now is his 4th injury. I thought he was injured more when he was at Sevilla. I didn't realise he only had 1 injury at Sevilla, muscle injury. Yeah, it's getting worse, isn't it? It's getting worse for Tony, that's for sure. How old is he? 27. Yeah. I feel bad for him. I like Martial, but yeah, it's not looking good. So yeah, he's I think Martial's got to play at the weekend. I wouldn't be too worried about Delot. Obviously, I did my preview for the Arsenal game yesterday. If you've not seen it, so check it out. Martial could have played more, just weak mentality, says Robert. I don't like that sort of stuff though, Robert, because I think it's a myth. I think it's the sort of stuff that ex-players have been touting and spouting for years about foreign players. You know, I've heard stuff from the training ground. Oh, have you? Maybe that person on the training ground doesn't like that player. What did Ten Hag say last week, Robert? He said Martial was begging him to play in the Manchester derby. I don't think he's got a bad mentality. I think from his interview in the summer, what was his interview in the summer where he said, you know, basically he said, a lot of my injury problems are because of Solskjaer, because Solskjaer overplayed me when I was injured. And the same thing happened to Rashford. So I don't think Martial's lazy. I don't think he's got a bad attitude. I like Martial. As a footballer, though, it's like what I was just talking about Marco Reus. I like Marco Reus, but I don't want him at United because his injury record's ridiculous. And to be honest with you, with Anthony Martial, I'm getting to the point with, if somebody would give us 40 million, I'd take it. Because I don't see the future. But I like the player, but it's ruthless, isn't it? I would move him on if I could do. I don't need to talk about he's got a bad attitude or he's lazy. I've always said about Martial, and, you know, I'm not attracted to men or anything like that, but I presume Anthony Martial, from the amount of people who like him online who are women, isn't a bad-looking guy. And yet, he does next to nothing commercially. That's always struck me with Martial. So when I hear people, like ex-players, having a pop at Martial about him having a lazy attitude, I played the game, you know what I'm talking about. I don't like that word lazy against players that they don't spend Christmas with. It's not like these ex-players are going out and socialising with Anthony Martial. And to be honest, not many people do. Because Anthony Martial is quite withdrawn. He's quite reserved. Shy, maybe. He could have made loads of money off Adidas, Puma, you know, Pepsi, the lot. He's definitely commercially viable. But when I've spoken to people in the industry about that, they've said to me, he doesn't want to do it. He's quite a reserved character. You know, he's quite complex in the sense that people think he's moody when he's actually quiet. People think he's lazy when he's actually quite, you know, introverted. And it's very unfair how he gets labelled like that. And it is an injustice because, you know what? Someone like Jesse Lingard would never get called lazy because he's vibrant and he runs around everywhere. Perception's very dangerous, isn't it? It's like judging someone before you've met them, isn't it? And I think that happens a lot in football. Asensio is another option, left with 6-month contract. We've been doing well with Real's players so far, says Jay. Asensio, it would be interesting. But yeah, I don't like the fact that Martial gets called lazy and all that, because I think it's unfair. The issue with Martial is injury, and it is horrendous, and that's not his fault. It's not Phil Jones's fault he's injured. I'm sure Phil Jones struggles with his mental health because he's hardly played football for years, and you only get one life and you only get one career. He's earned a lot of money, but I'm sure he'd take half that money to be able to play football. Injuries are very, very... You're always going to get criticised for an injury record, but actually, ultimately, it's not your fault. But it's very frustrating for fans, and fans will get as frustrated with an injury record as they will as a bad player. If I look at a bad player and say, get rid of them, they're not good enough, you'll basically have the same opinion of get rid of them, they're never fit. But also, ultimately, the bad player is playing and is bad. The injured player isn't playing because they're injured, and they probably can't control the fact that they're injured. But they do get thrown in and criticised the same as the bad player, and it is unfair in a way, but it's being ruthless. An injury-prone player needs to be moved on. A bad player needs to be moved on. That's competitive sport. You have to be ruthless. There is a press conference reaction coming out at 1:45. Yes, that is happening. But I hope he's available on Sunday, Martial, because as I said in my preview, and do check the preview out on the homepage. As I said on the preview, he is. I think Saliba and Gabriel will absolutely kill us if we play Weghorst. They will play the highest line they can. I think their line will be so high, they'll be on the edge of our penalty box. And people will say Rashford, but yeah, Weghorst is slow, and I think they'll play high. Sabitzer, says Makish. I mean, I don't know the situation with Sabitzer. I'll tell you what I will say, and I'll say it right now. I wonder if I can find you this. This would be very interesting if I can. I want to talk about Sabitzer. We basically spent most of the show talking about the midfield. There are some topical stuff I want to talk to you about. Make sure you subscribe, by the way, bottom right-hand corner. And if you are a member, we've got another quiz coming out for you today. Exclusive extra content for the members. Check it out. I'm just trying to see if I can get this information for you. It's not always easy to do. It's a little bit slow, actually. I want to look at... Have they done it by position? Yes, they have. So, can we do it by... Can't do it on appearances. Okay, so let me show you this. There we go. So let's just get that on to Bayern Munich's midfield. So you've got Kimmich, Goretzka, Gravenberch, Sabitzer, Musiala. I mean, would they give us Sabitzer? I don't know. How many times has he played? 23. He's played quite a lot of games. I don't think that's going to happen. No, I don't think that's going to happen, to be honest with you. How many's Gravenberch played? I mean, Gravenberch would be interesting. I just don't think they'd do it, would they? Played 10 games in the Bundesliga. I mean, I'd love something like that. I'd love a Gravenberch loan. I really, really would. Kessie's been mentioned as well. Sabitzer. I don't think we're going to get a deal like that. But you know what? We started the show looking at deals that can be done. I guarantee you there's a deal that you can do like Gravenberch somewhere, who's got loads of years left on their contract but isn't playing enough football. And a club just goes, you know what? We would loan him to you for 6 months. There'll be loads. I can't even list that for you because it's not something you can filter. You've just got to be a good scout. Like, there may well be a player that's got 3 years left on their contract that's hardly playing for Barcelona or Real Madrid or PSG or Juventus or AC Milan or Bayern Munich or Borussia Dortmund, there might be a player like that is just available. But the bottom line that underpins this is that Manchester United do not want to. Well, the Glazers do not want to spend any money, so it makes it very, very difficult. Look at Odegaard. I mean, Arsenal have done a fantastic job recently. I mean, Ceballos, I thought that was a good signing. I know it didn't necessarily work out, but it wasn't bad. Odegaard's another one. These are examples of big clubs that will loan out decent players, and people think that it won't happen, but it will happen. They will loan out decent players because it saves them a bit of money, it gives them game time, and they're surplus to requirements. Flex47, welcome to the Members Club, thank you. So, think about it from Man United's point of view. We did it with Martial last year. Martial's a bloody good player, and we loaned him to Sevilla till the end of the season. So that's the mentality United fans need to have. We can get a midfielder and an attacking midfielder in on loan, and we can get good people in. It's whether we've got the money to do it. And quite rightly, somebody said it before, this whole it's about the right player actually means that's nonsense. You haven't got the money to do it, have you? We haven't even got the money to do a loan deal, maybe. And that's the issue. So we'll have to wait and see. On Elanga, just a bit of a story on Elanga, talking about loans. Everton, there was a story this morning that Ten Hag doesn't want Elanga to go to Everton because it's a volatile situation. I agree with Ten Hag on that. I'm always quite defensive of Elanga because I like him. I think he's a good lad who has been thrown in at the deep end and hasn't even been given any armbands. And he's sinking a little bit. He's not ready for it. He can't swim in the Premier League. He needs to go down to shallower shores in the Championship. I think if he did go to Everton, I don't think he's suddenly going to become a good player. I don't think he's ready for the Premier League. I really don't. I'd be happy for him to go to Everton, but I actually agree with Ten Hag if that's true. I think he'd go to Everton. He wouldn't be better than what they've got. He's not better than Damari Gray or Gordon. The crowd would get on his back, and then it does nothing for him. I think that's really intelligent. I think that's really intelligent if it's true from Erik Ten Hag to actually, be sort of like, I don't want Elanga to go to Everton because that situation is volatile. I don't think he's good enough for the Premier League, and I think, if he played like he does for us, the Everton crowd would end up getting frustrated with him because it's a very frustrating situation that they've got. So Dortmund would be perfect for him. If it's not the Championship, Dortmund would be perfect. Do I think we'll loan him out? I think we have to loan him out. I don't really see. I don't really see what keeping Elanga does apart from putting bums on seats. He just fills a slot on the bench. But look at it on Wednesday night. Look at it on Wednesday night. Manchester United against Crystal Palace. Rashford's tired. Antony's not playing very well. Bruno's tired. And Weghorst is tired. Did Elanga come on? No. So you can have somebody who's an option off the bench, but they're not really an option off the bench if you know they're not really an option off the bench. I think we need to loan Elanga and just bite the bullet and go, at the end of the day, he ain't good enough at the moment. How do we make him good enough? Well, the only way to make him good enough is to let him go and develop somewhere. And so I think Elanga needs to go on loan. But you then look at the situation and you go, well, we've only got Weghorst, Martial's injured. They might just go, let's keep Elanga, but we're just keeping somebody. And we need better than that. And he needs to be allowed to develop. Jordan says, I go to Salford Uni and yesterday I saw 3 cars with Kuwait reg plates driving in formation down a bus lane. Because it's to do with United sales, says Jordan. Mate, there's a lot of development going on in Manchester. United stands up for sale at the moment as well. So if it was heading up near Old Trafford, they might have been visiting us. So, there's a lot of development going on at United. There's a lot of building going on at United. So, just because there's cars with Kuwaiti registration plates doesn't mean it's for Manchester United. But no, who knows? I don't think. No, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Can we swap someone with Elanga? Says Parry. Well, yeah. I mean, this is what I mean. What about Dawood at Dortmund? You know, he's a midfielder. Let's do a deal. We'll have him on loan. He's only got 6 months on his contract. You take Elanga. Yeah, so that would be interesting. Ceballos, Real Madrid, central midfielder, contract ends this 2023. Only €9 million, says Lee. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, look, all I'm going to say is, because I'm going to repeat myself, is that I do believe that Manchester United, and the whole purpose of the show this morning was to just sort of dabble into the fact that we shouldn't listen to it's about the right player. It's not about the right player. Ten Hag's probably got a list of 20 midfielders he would like in January that we can get. And I bet United have gone, no, can't afford, there's no money, Eric. He will know. If we can sit here for 40 minutes and come up with options as viable options in January, then Eric Ten Hag will have been doing that for 4 months. And I'm not talking about a star, I'm talking about 6 month loan deals like Weghorst. There will be players that we can get in 100%. Sean says Tielemans, the issue with Tielemans is you won't get him on loan, and I don't think Leicester need to sell Tielemans. And what I mean by that is Leicester are in a relegation battle. If Leicester stay up, I think the difference between relegation and staying in the Premier League is rumoured to be anywhere between 20 and 50 million quid. So if you sell Tielemans for 15 million because he's got 6 months left on his contract and you get relegated, but if you keep Tielemans you stay up, you're better off losing Tielemans for nothing in the summer and staying up than getting rid of him in January for 15 million and getting relegated. And I think that might be what Leicester decide to do. I think they might just say, look, he's an important player, let's keep him involved. But you know, Who Dares Wins is on about Marco Reus to United in the summer. There has been a story this morning about Marco Reus and Manchester United. I showed you his injury record. He's had 3 ankle injuries this season already, and he's 33. You can't do a deal like that. Good player, but you can't do a deal like that. That would be ridiculously naive on Man United's part to do that. Kudos to United, or Kudus. I can't pronounce his name, Christian. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Not in January. I mean, I'm focused on January at the moment. McAllister possibly says just watching. I mean, I'm not thinking about the summer. The summer is impossible to think about because if you get the right owners in. What I will say this, I'll give you, I've been spending a lot of time in the last couple of weeks looking at the financial fair play, what Chelsea are doing, and United are basically throwing the fans a red herring. They're basically saying that there's no money to be spent, and it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. There is money to be spent. There is definitely money to be spent. United's transfer bill is 300 million at the moment because we're not spending what we're saying we're spend. 200 million pounds last summer wasn't spent. How have we got a 300 million transfer bill if we spent 200 last summer? We're stacking it up. We're buying a player for 80 million, but we're paying it off over 5 years, and that's why we owe so much money. If new owners come in and clear that, we don't owe 300 million quid, so we can spend it. We need new owners to come in and, refinance the football club in a sense that let's clear some of the debt. Let's be better in the transfer market. So in the summer, we could buy Enzo Fernandez and Osman. If we get different owners, we could be buying Royce and McAllister. Who knows? So we can't. The summer's irrelevant because we don't know the situation of the club in the summer, and January is relevant because we need players now. Carl says, hi Mark, I'm going to the Reading game next weekend. Do you think we need to focus on domestic success or push for Europe success this season? Says Carl. I think it's a really good question, Carl, and it's a really dynamic answer. In the last few weeks, Delo's got injured, Martial's got injured, and Donny's out for the season. We're only in the middle of January. We've got to get to the end of May, playing a lot of games. And we're already picking up injuries. And already some of our players look tired. Second half, Bruno was exhausted. So we're already getting fatigue and injuries. And the squad's not good enough. My focus is top 4. I still think that's very difficult, even though we've got a good cushion. I don't see how we can win trophies and get top 4 or a title race with what we've got. But we'll just have to take it game to game. Because I fully expect there to be a time this season when we play a really important game and we're going, well, we'll have to play McTominay, we'll have to play Maguire, we'll have to play Alanga. I think we might find ourselves in that position a few times this season, in the back end of the season, if what I predict is going to happen this year, which is just relentless injuries and fatigue. But there's not much chance to rotate at the moment. Next week might be a good opportunity because we've got Forest 2 legs and Reading in the cup. The Reading game has to be reserves. It's got to be Maguire and Lindelof at the back, Tom Heaton in goal, McTominay at CDM, Garnacho off the wing, Weghorst up front, hopefully Sancho's back. You've got to be resting De Gea, Varane, Martinez, Luke Shaw, Casemiro, Eriksen, Bruno, Rashford. They've all got to be rested against that Reading game, and that gives them a few days off. I think in the Forest game, it's a cup semi-final. You've got to go strong, haven't you? You can't not go strong in those games. Anyway, look, I'm back at 1:45 with Erik ten Hag's press conference. We won't get much injury updates because he actually did it on Wednesday night, but apparently we will get some stuff about transfers, so we will see what's said then. Tune in for that. Don't forget to check out the preview for the Arsenal game. I did that yesterday afternoon. It was thoroughly enjoyable, talking about the midfield issues. Make sure you subscribe, and if you are a member, we've got a video going up for you today, a new members video exclusively for you. It's another quiz. Check that out. I am on Twitch at 3 o'clock as well. That Man United career mode is exclusively on Twitch now, so Goldbridge TV. If you want to catch up on episode 1, it's on there on the video section. It's a really, really good career mode. I'm excited about it. So great show as always, says Aldo. Well, it's only as good as the people who are watching and getting involved. So thank you to everyone as well. Have a great day, and I'll speak to you a little bit later. It's 8 o'clock Friday night as well. You know what that means. Q&A, bit of a kickback. Looking forward to that. Speak to you in a bit.